Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at the Panerai Radiomir 1940 PAM 512, 42 millimeters in polished stainless steel. If this one were a high school graduate, it would be voted the Panerai most likely to challenge your Vacheron Constantin Traditionnel for wrist time, because so much of what makes a traditional dress watch special and appealing is evident in this PAM 512. This watch is thin, it's versatile, it's discreet, it's handsome. It has the time-only three-hand simplicity featured in the very best of men's formal watches over the last 100 years. Everything about this watch is, in so many ways, if you want to take the yin-yang analogy, this is the beautiful, elegant, soft, becoming, civilized counterpoint to the hard-edged, brutal, animal, feral, combat-inspired origins of the Panerai brand. This is Panerai become a true luxury house. And in so many ways, Richemont tries to avoid conflicts between its maisons, but if I were working at Vacheron, I'd be looking over my shoulder, knowing that Panerai is building watches like this today. Because on my wrist, which is 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters, you can see just how discreet, how thin, low profile, and elegant this PAM 512 is. Now, it does have the Panerai Radiomir 1940 case, so you can see, now 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters, my wrist is kind of smallish, but it's fairly representative in profile. So ovalish, flattish across the top. Your mileage may vary, but I feel that my wrist is pretty representative in profile, if not in size. But what I want to focus on with the 1940 case is just how bold and pronounced those lugs are, and how elegant and complex the contour of the case is. Now, on a traditional Radiomir with the wire lug style, the look of the old soldered steel lugs on the side of a pocket watch style cushion case, the lugs are spare. They're not part of the personality of the watch. They shrink away and they make it quite wearable, because most Radiomir models are 45 millimeters, 47 millimeters. This one is 42, so with the 1940 case that expresses the fully milled lug style that came into use on Panerai watches in 1940, it was more secure for combat operations then, but it has more personality today, because those lugs are more part of the style of the watch, not an incidental stylistic footnote as they are in the case of the soldered lugs. These have projection and span, and they add to the watch's stance on the wrist in a way that the wire lugs don't. So although this watch is 42 millimeters, it wears a little bit bigger. In fact, I would say this is also Panerai's counterpoint to something like a 40 millimeter 6-digit contemporary Rolex reference. I've often said those watches wear bigger than 40 millimeters on the wrist, just as this one wears a little bit bigger than 42. I would say that when you take the accommodation of this supple alligator strap and weigh that against its 42 millimeter case, it comes out almost the ergonomic equal of a Rolex 40 millimeter Submariner, for example. But whereas the Submariner has the look of a no-holds-barred utility implement, the Panerai is elegant. The Panerai has the beauty of natural animal hide with a contrasting hand stitch. It has that gorgeous sandwich dial with the fully loomed disc beneath, with that ecru colored simulated radium patina, and of course the three-hand simplicity of this watch with no date window is quite becoming as a formal option. It's still a sports watch. It's still rated to 100 meters. You put it on a rubber strap or a waterproof hide, it can go anywhere the Submariner can, down to 100 meters, which should be pretty good for anything you plan on doing this summer that doesn't involve a diving bell. The bottom line is that this is a versatile watch, a true sports watch. It's also a phenomenal watch for the evenings, a watch for long sleeves. On my wrist, you can see a dress cuff will have no problem with this, and a big part of that equation is the 3.4 millimeter thick Panerai in-house caliber 999. Now, the 999's been around since the last decade. Debuting in 2009, it represents the utmost in simplicity, in handsome, honest finish. It's really the movement that's succeeded the old Unitas 6497 as Panerai's crash course in watchmaking for enthusiasts of the craft. You can see the power transmission coming straight in from the crown to the crown wheel. Via two intermediate wheels, it runs to a ratchet wheel that sits just above the mainspring barrel. There's a little click retainer right there, and that holds the energy, which is then transmitted through the center wheel, through this train of circular grained wheels to the escapement and the oscillating balance wheel that you see right here. It's as simple as watchmaking gets, and yet its beauty is in its simplicity. With an abundant 60-hour power reserve, this is the kind of watch you can put down on Friday afternoon, fully wound, and if you do want to put on your big, bold submersible for weekend adventures, this one will still be beating on Monday morning. But the key thing here is, I want to focus on why a simple movement is arguably more deserving of a sapphire caseback display than a complicated movement. A lot of times, when movements are impenetrably complex, it's only the outer layer, perhaps something like a winding rotor, a winding system bridge, maybe the base of the complications that you can see. You can't see through the entire soul and works of the movement. And with only about 140 pieces here, you can see almost everything that's going on in this caliber 999. And so the sapphire really reveals the essence of watchmaking, and it's there to explain to your friends or to enjoy solo. And I like that revealing quality, its simplicity, and its back to basics beauty, quite honestly. This is an intriguing movement because it is so thin. 3.4 millimeters thick. It's almost half as thick as something like a Rolex 3135 that you would find in a Submariner, and it allows this watch to wear as thin and low in profile as it does on the wrist. This is a fascinating modern reference because it really speaks to the graduation of Panerai from ex-military curiosity to true high-end luxury watchmaking. Luxury in fit, luxury in finish, and the luxury is in the details. Everything from that gorgeous patina dial to the thin and fine, simply and beautifully finished caliber 999 recommends this watch as an alternative to a true dress watch from the likes of Jaeger-LeCoultre, Vacheron Constantin. I would go so far as to say that in terms of presentation, it has as much wrist presence as something like a Lange or an Audemars Piguet. Now some might say, Tim, you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself. This is a Panerai after all. But the bottom line is, Panerai has come a long way. From the mud of Alexandria Harbor to watch you want, I would say the sky's the limit, and this PAM 512 is going places. Maybe even your house. I'm Tim, and this is Watch You Want.